topic for today is hypnotherapy for insomnia, anxiety, and other psychological and emotional problems. So I'm going to introduce our speaker today, Dr. Edward Chan, PhD in Psychology, Master of Science in Learning, Masters in Nutritional Medicine, Bachelor of Science in Psychology, Postgraduate Diploma in Corporate Psychology, Principal Consultant Psychologist at PsyCorp, Center for Corporate Psychology, the International Psychology Center. Board Certified Corporate Therapist with the Malaysian Association for Psychotherapy and the International Society for Psychotherapy, Counselling, and Psychiatry. Fellow of the World Council for Psychotherapy. Invited speaker for the 9th World Congress for Psychotherapy 2020. Keynote speaker for the 4th International Psychotherapy, Counselling, and Psychiatry Conference 2020. Invited speaker for the 37th European Psychiatry Conference on Schema Therapy. Author of Dancing with Crocodile, Key Strategies of Corporate Psychology, author of Love is Never Enough, published in the Journal of Cognitive Therapy and Research, published in the Journal for Reattach Therapy and Developmental Diversities, published in the International Journal of Psychiatry, accredited reattached therapist. So I think he's one of the best to just have here, and we are really honored, Doctor, to have you here. And I think without any further ado, we can go to our today's topic for today. So as like an opening question, Doctor, what is hypnotherapy?
Well, the hypnotherapy is basically the application of hypnosis for therapeutic purposes. And hypnotherapy is indeed a branch of psychotherapy. The state of hypnosis has been in existence for thousands of years. You know, the Egyptians tried to investigate it, although they didn't know about the subconscious and all that. And it was not until Mesmer in the 1700s, 18th century, that started to have this idea, which was then discounted. And it was Freud himself that introduce it into psychiatry and psychotherapy and psychology.
Wow, so interesting.
Yes. So yes, we owe a lot to Freud, and one of this is the use of hypnotherapy.
Okay, Doctor, I was wondering, what are the benefits of using this technique? What is it that is so special about this?
Well, it puts the patients into a favorable environment for us to work with the patient. You know, they're in a more relaxed environment, definitely, and that's why we can use it for things like insomnia, which is one of the subtopic today, right? But also we are able to use it for something called regression. Right, regression is a way to go back into an early period of your life and an early memory. And some of my colleagues, they even claim to regress to your past lives, but that is probably, you know, unless anyone wants to discuss that, we will mainly stay in this life, in this webinar. So regression is a powerful technique because a lot of our psychological programs are installed when we are very young. And in fact, Freud himself said, give me a child of 4 or 5 years old and I can tell you how he or she is going to die, because this is where our blueprints, you know, our psychological program are laid. Our life decisions are made from that very young age. And in order to change any of this program, then we might need to go back to those early memory under hypnosis to make those changes. So it is just a technique, and you do need to use it in conjunction with some other psychotherapy technique to have some effective changes.
Thank you, doctor, for the explanation. I was just wondering, how does it work?
And on that note, if I might add, it is therefore not only if you're doing like a hypnotherapy course, you need to know hypnotherapy. You can integrate it and use it in all forms of psychotherapy. So for other people learning about other psychotherapy courses like art therapy, which yourself, Elika, have learned, and now you're doing adult psychology, you can certainly incorporate it, and it's very important for you to know this technique.
Yes,
right?
actually, I'm really interested in that.
It's for everyone, really.
Yeah. So, doctor, how does this work? It's like, what are the techniques that you use while you're doing hypnotherapy?
So the hypnotic state is actually nothing too special, right? It is a favorable condition, but on a daily basis, most of us do experience hypnotic states, right? And like sometimes you are talking to someone, but your mind is somewhere else. You are under hypnosis. You're in a trance, or you're walking somewhere, driving somewhere, and you're not aware, about the journey, and then you arrive there. You are in a hypnotic trance. So we are in a hypnotic trance a lot of the time ourselves. It's basically any state whereby your body is one place and your mind is in another. That is a hypnotic state. All right, and that's why the Egyptians know about it. They know about dreaming, so they are very curious to find out more about that state. They built all sort of lab in those days, to try to find out more. So so the hypnotic state in itself is nothing special. So the question is, how do we what we call induce, right? How do the therapists induce someone into a hypnotic state? Now, there are the 2 or 3 different strategies to do that. All right, you probably are familiar with the pendulum, the stopwatch. Those are what we call a relaxation state. To get someone, to allow someone into a hypnotic state. Getting someone very relaxed to do that. Indeed, that can be done. There's also the shock technique, right? When you shock someone, like my mother, was in that condition many years ago when my father had an accident, my father walked through a glass door, and there were like blood everywhere, and my mother was in shock. Right, and she's naturally fall into a hypnotic state, which was not very useful. She was a trained nurse, but yes, she was walking up and down the stairs, rubbing a cloth. She's like in a trance. Luckily, before she did that, she called, one of our friends to come over and help. Otherwise, my father wouldn't have made it. Right, so that is the reason why a lot of the paramedics in like Western country in USA, they are trained in hypnosis, or hypnotherapy, because they know at that shock stage when the patient had an accident, what you say to them is going to be received under trance. So if you tell them, this is terrible, you're not going to make it, then the likelihood of the patients not making it will be very high. That's not going to be very helpful, right? So they need to say the right thing under those hypnotic states. There's also one other technique by Milton Erickson, right? And this is a technique that everyone can use. And this is a technique whereby he doesn't use any special induction, but just very naturally, indirectly suggests how the person can go to a hypnotic state. I think, Mohammed, you need to put yourself on mute. I'm hearing a lot of interference. In fact, everyone can put themselves on mute until you have a question, right? yeah, so we will go, maybe a little bit more deeply into some of these different techniques on induction.
Mhm. Thank you, Doctor. So I have actually another question. Who can benefit from this? Is it like suitable for everyone, both adults and children, or no?
Yes, in terms of population, patient population, almost everyone can benefit from it, right? That there are some caution of working with psychotic patients, right? Of patient with dissociative identity disorder, right? So these patients, they might be easily disassociated. But even that, if you prepare them carefully, it is a possible technique to use, and we can talk more about that later. But really, even children are very amenable to hypnotherapy, to hypnotic suggestion. So really, all sort of patients can be used. Can benefit definitely from hypnotherapy.
Thank you so much. Just one more question. It's like, if it's suitable for children, from what age they can participate in this?
Well, as long as you can visualize, right, and imagine, then the child, and children are wonderful in using their imagination.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, so they are perfect candidates for using hypnosis. So you just need to paint a picture. So one thing, so in hypnosis we are addressing what Freud discovered, was the subconscious mind. So it was Freud who popularized this idea that we have the subconscious, right? In fact, it is the unconscious even, all right, that Freud used. So with that metaphor, we can really use hypnosis to bring that out, right? To tap into our unconscious.
So you mean something like this would be really helpful if there's some like traumatic event in somebody's past, and you can go back and revisit that and maybe make some corrections.
Exactly. So the use of imagination and metaphors is very important. So if I were to go into someone's past, someone who has been traumatized, right? They might be feeling a bit vulnerable, and then they might in fact be even very apprehensive of revisiting that past, right? And this is why trauma has such a hold on people, right? So, but with the careful scripting and then the use of imagination, we can facilitate traveling back to the past. So, for example, we can use the metaphor of a helicopter, right? We're going to fly back together in a helicopter, to the past, to the point close to when you experience this trauma, right? And at any point that we get close to that point in time, you feel uncomfortable, you want to come back, you want to leave, you can, it's totally under your control. So you give this control to the patients, right? That can navigate the helicopter, this time travel machine back. That can pause, that can slow it down. So you need to craft that metaphor, right, for the clients.
So you mean that actually patients do not lose control; they still have control during a session like that?
In fact, most hypnosis are self-hypnosis, right? So it is quite difficult for me to hypnotize you if you're not willing to be hypnotized. So that is indeed part of the process, right? To enable you to know and believe that you can go into this journey and be hypnotized, all right, and it is safe. So I need to convey that belief to you. But if you feel it is unsafe, you're not going to allow me to hypnotize you.
I
right?
see. Okay. Actually, there is one question that is very related to what you just said. Can a person who has a very strong mental capacity be hypnotized? I think you kind of just answered this. I don't know, maybe.
So but maybe we need to get more clarity what we mean by mental capacity, right? But what do we mean by mental capacity? Do you mean like defensiveness or intelligence or what? What do I'm not sure what the inquirer mean by that. Maybe we can ask the person, right? Yeah.
Okay. So whoever asked, actually, Amarjit, is actually, if you ask the question, you can just clarify it a bit more so that we can answer to this question. Now, Joanne actually has a question. What would you do if I get into an abreaction? Do you check any contradiction before taking a person going into hypnotherapy?
Well, we mentioned just now that some of the conditions like psychotic disorder, psychosis, this associative identity disorder. We might need to be a bit careful. We may need to do more preparation. Yeah. And like with trauma and things, we need to craft those facility, the control facility, safety facility, so that the patient feel that they have the control to navigate back.
So as a patient, how would you describe the experience? It's like, how do you feel? Are you going to run like a sleeping mode, or you're unconscious, or you still have self-control? How is it going? It's like, how is the experience?
Yes, it will be like a very beautiful, relaxing place. What is a beautiful, relaxing place for you, Alika?
I think some natural place is like, maybe something like that.
Exactly. So in that way, you need to know your patient. Like I ask you, since I know it is like a natural place for you, would it be like a jungle or the beach? What would you prefer?
I think the jungle.
The jungle, yes. Then I will use that, right? So each we need to tailor the experience for our patients. Every patient might have a slightly different taste for what is relaxing. For I know. My wife, the jungle will be terrifying for her. So
yeah, I think for a lot of people it's like that.
Yeah,
True.
but for you, it will be the perfect place to use, right? So I will use the jungle for you to help you relax, and I will put you in a jungle to get you very relaxed. So yes, it would be if you do it properly, it should be a relaxing experience. Otherwise, you have the wrong image, right?
Yeah, that's right. So, are there any side effects of hypnotherapy?
Yes. I mean, apart from relaxation, and that's if you do it like too if the patient like have a trauma and they get too close to their fear, then and you haven't prepared them thoroughly, then they might get this reaction of fear, right? In which case, you need to prepare more and remind them that have that control. So you need to monitor to see how the patient is doing at each stage and go with them on that journey. Yeah.
Okay, so after the session, is the patient going to remember what happened to them? It's like,
well, yes, that is one of the benefits of hypnosis. Unless you hypnotize them to forget, right? But that would be like one of the side effects of hypnosis of the learning. In fact, this is what even the past life regression therapist Brian Weiss, Dr. Brian Weiss, who's a psychiatrist, he hypnotized people to past life, and this is what he claimed, that you even remember your learning about your past life. So imagine that certainly in our current life we remember all those events that we learn, and this is another benefit of hypnosis. Say I've been working a lot with patients with phobia. Right, I had once a patient with phobia of flying. This is before the COVID, of course, and for me, like to go with him, which I can on the flight to help him would be very expensive and a bit impractical, right? So instead of that, I hypnotized him to try out the technique in in his imagination in flying, and he was able to then apply in practice and fly very successfully without the phobia, right? So we can do using hypnosis to do what we can't do in practice in vivo, right? I think we have a hand up there by Joanne, but it's up to you to.
Okay, yes, Joanne, please go.
Okay, so hypnotherapy is basically using the law of suggestions, right? As a therapist, to give the suggestions when you put someone into a hypnotherapy. Now, when it comes to insomnia, the more that you suggest them, the more they can't. So do you use the reverse effect?
Right. Yeah, with insomnia, we have a few ways to do it. One is of course like the counting sheep's way, right? Counting sheep is actually an effective method to overcome insomnia. But and so basically, I was saying in hypnosis we engage the subconscious mind. Right, the subconscious mind loves things which are concrete, like ships, right? But if I were to work with Elika, then I will get her to count leaves. I'll put her, in a jungle, and if she cannot sleep, she'll walk around the jungle and count leaves. Looking all the leaves of the jungle, or the ants in the jungle, all the spiders in the jungle, and she will count until she falls asleep. Right, so that would. So
it's somewhat like you're making the subconscious mind to stay awake. So it's like, I wonder how long more you will fall.
You engage the subconscious mind, right? You engage it, but you engage it in relaxing activity. You don't engage it in thinking about work, and then all the stress hormone will come out, and that would then be causing more insomnia. So you engage the subconscious mind in a relaxing activity.
I'm actually very curious about people who have insomnia. It's like, I reckon that some people, maybe they don't have insomnia, they're just a night owl and not a morning person. So it's the perception that normal sleeping pattern should be 11 to 7, So how do you say that?
Well, we have a night clock. That's for sure. right? And on this circadian rhythm, the sleep clock, then sleepiness will be induced mainly by the production of melatonin, which require darkness, you know. So you know that there might be some variation in the shifts, but rarely it will happen at night. You know, you will not have a person that sleep in the daytime with daylight, you know, unless he is having a jet lag, right? So yeah.
Okay, so what you're saying is that if a person don't sleep during nighttime when it starts, so it's not right.
Yes, that's right.
All right.
It's out of sync with the circadian rhythm.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
Okay, so actually, what conditions can be treated by hypnotherapy?
Well, given that we mentioned just now, most of us, all of us, in fact, have a psychological program, right? Then many of these programs are dysfunctional, right? That might be functional at some stage of our life, but now it has become a hindrance instead. Then most of us need to have a program update, right? So then therefore both psychological conditions are linked to dysfunctional programs, right? And therefore the most psychological condition can be treated with hypnosis in that way, because all these programs need to be updated, need to be changed, and hypnosis is a very powerful way to do that, right? To create the environments to do that. So right, can some yeah. So whether we do it directly or indirectly, you know, it is still hypnosis. So there's like I mentioned just now, Milton Erickson, you know, who is a very famous hypnotherapist. Many of his techniques are indirect, right? He doesn't even tell you are going through a hypnosis. You know, you are just like hypnotized without you realizing it, right?
Wow.
It's very natural that he does it. You know, in fact, so that's the way to do it. You make it very natural. Otherwise, you would increase the apprehension and defensiveness. All right.
Yeah, you're right. So how long does it take for the patient to see changes after having these sessions?
Well, it can be just 1 or 2 sessions. You know, it depends on how many program, you know, this program, we call them schema, right? A dysfunctional program. It depends on how many of these dysfunctional programs you have, right? To make those changes. On the other hand, it is also about bringing wisdom, right, to the patient. So sometimes it is just a part of the self, you know, that is not it's like we have many different part of us, right? Almost like many different cells, and sometimes we use the wrong part. So it's about increasing our awareness of using the right self at the right time, right? So that would also come with practice.
Okay, thank you. What about self-hypnotherapy? How is it done?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, most hypnosis are self-hypnosis, right? So like if I give you the the language of how to hypnotize yourself in the jungle, right? Then you just follow that tonight when you sleep and you see yourself in the jungle and you walk around in the jungle, so you are essentially hypnotizing yourself. You're learning the technique, the self hypnosis technique, right? And I can give you a suggestion that when you do it on your own, you'll be equally successful, if not more, than when you're doing with me. And then you'll find that you are doing perfectly fine on your own, right? So yes, most people can learn self-hypnosis.
Thank you, Doctor.
No worries.
I was wondering whether IPC provide this hypnotherapy actually.
Yeah, we provide it as a course, in itself, hypnotherapy, along with many other professional, accredited courses. We provide it in combination with other courses. For example, we have a course called cognitive hypnotherapy, right? So this is like CBT in conjunction with hypnosis, right? So like I mentioned, in CBT, for example, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is one of the most evidence-based outcome, technique, like most research has been done, with CBT. But the problem with CBT is it relies a lot on homework, right? We will prescribe all this homework for patient to do at home, to practice overcoming the negative thoughts, to overcome their depression or anxiety. And then, we do a review with them on the next session to see how successful it has been. Now with cognitive hypnotherapy, we do it in the session itself. We hypnotize the patient and give them an anxious, provoking situation like public speaking or something, which they are undergoing a lot of stress. We hypnotize them, we get them to see in front of them, people like are laughing at them when they're speaking, right? And then we have already done all the CBT with them, tell them how to overcome them. And then we put them, into deep water under hypnosis and let us know how you deal with that. So they are practicing what they learn, in the safe place on the therapy room, right? Rather than during homework, which is outside our control, right? As the therapist, and if they need some help, they're like froze, then the therapist can step in and say, okay, this is what you can do. Focus on find a friendly face, in front of you, and start to relax, so we can guide them using the hypnosis technique itself, right? Okay. So this is good advantage. So we do combine, and of course in many other courses, even art therapy, we do, if you remember in your course, we make drawing of the past, that is like then getting the patient to go back to the past, transform their mind to another place that is already hypnotherapy. And of course we do it a lot in schema therapy. So in most courses we apply the hypnotherapy, if not on its own, but certainly in combination with other techniques.
I see. Okay, I think Joanne actually wants to go for like a question or something. Okay, Joanne, please go. It's like, what is it? Joanne, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry. Okay. Do you use I've studied a little bit about IMR, which is a way to consider direct communications from the unconscious mind. So like a therapist, they will ask you to raise your fingers, a yes and a no. How reliable is this? Because You know, some
Yeah.
patients that they just can't speak up, and then you delve into to connect with the unconscious mind, then you use the IMR. So how reliable is this? Because I read an article from overseas that they actually question suspects with this technique.
Well, actually in hypnosis, the patient can do anything, right? And that's why you see in stage hypnosis, you know, the patient can raise their foot, raise their arm, do anything. So the patient can talk, you know. So of course you want to have a least distractible place, but even that can be built into the suggestion. You know, we can work in a very noisy place, and we can put in the suggestion. You know, the more noise you hear, the more peaceful you become. Then that will be a peaceful environment for the patient. So yes, sometimes we use that. We want to like get a feedback from the patient. You know, I ask the patient, you're gonna walk down the path into the jungle, you know, and when you're there, you raise a little finger. So I want to get an indication of feedback whether Elika has arrived in the jungle or not, and I see her little finger raised, and I know she's there, right? So that is a valid technique to use to get feedback, you know. And of course we use eyes, movement, and everything, you know. So a lot of physiological signals can be used for feedback.
So
right?
it's a reliable ones to induce the
yes, but
yes,
you
no,
have
maybe.
Yeah, you have to read it and see and know whether the patient is in the trance or not, in a state or not. Okay, or whether they're just you know, doing it to be compliant with you, right? So you need to read a bit of the physiological states to know. Good question. So
okay, so
Elika, yes.
Yeah, actually, sorry, my dog starts to bark and I don't know what to do. So what about everybody else? So is there anybody in the audience want to ask something about this topic?
Yes.
It's okay, never mind. I will keep asking also, because I find it quite how to say it? You need to really convince me into this hypnotherapy. Now, what if a therapist doesn't have the good moral value? Do you think they can do the bad suggestions and then the patients actually accept it, or we have the control that not taking that suggestions, like go rob a bank or?
Yes. So the patient you know, do have their moral stance, their values, you know, and it would be quite impossible to hypnotize someone's against their will, right? So
even if someone is in trance, my subconscious will not accept any negative suggestions.
Negative to you, yes. Yes, right. So if we are, you know, you're in trance and you know, the fire alarm rings, and you know, you sense smoke and something, then you will come out of your state and run for your life, even though you are in a jungle in your imagination, right? So there are like different part of us, right? Like you have a different cells. You have a subconscious part which I can engage with, you know. But if it is more important for you at that time for your conscious state to come out and do other things, then you will do that, right? So I need to have you believe that it is beneficial for you at this stage, you know, to engage your subconscious. But you have all sort of other cues to know otherwise, if it is not. right? So your critical faculty is still in place to help you at any point. Right, hope that answer your question, right? So today's topic, we are meant to talk about anxiety, insomnia, and depression as well. I think is depression
Yes.
in the list? Yes,
Oh.
right.
Not exactly depression, but emotional problems, psychological.
Emotional problem. Okay,
Mm.
right. So maybe we can talk a little bit more about anxiety then. You know, we have talked a bit about insomnia, right? So anxiety is really about the projection, you know, of something negative in the future, isn't it? You know,
Yes,
you
correct.
you are repeating a negative scenario in the future, and that is why anxiety and insomnia are very much related, right? So when I have a lot of negative projection about something bad that's going to happen, and guess what? My stress hormone is going to increase, all right? And when I do that at night, my stress hormone is going to increase, and that will then block all my sleep hormone, melatonin, right? And that's why anxious patients find it difficult to sleep. Yeah. So that is where hypnosis can come in, right? You can first of all provide this environment, this peaceful environment, right? Because when you provide a very concrete environment, a very concrete visualization for the subconscious, then it will not be able then to engage in all this abstract future projection that is anxious provoking. You know, so when you see all the jungle, the leaves, you know, the insect, you will relax and you will not become anxious, right? This will send you to sleep, right? Plus, we can also do something called future projection, right? So this is why the you know, I think it was last year. I'm a tennis fan, right? And last year I think in the U.S. Open that there was this female, you know, she's quite an unknown player, a Spanish player, I believe. I can't remember her name now, right? But she wrote herself a check, you know, of the winning money, you know, a few years ago, and she was like aiming for it. She was like having this future projection, and indeed she won the award. So in other words, you know, we can do a lot of future projection. You know, that is a hypnotic state as well, right? So instead of I mean, when you're worrying, you are actually hypnotizing yourself, but negatively, right? You are giving yourself a negative, stressful hypnosis, which is possible. So we can teach a patient to change that, right? And visualize a scenario, right? That would be positive instead, you know, to counter that, you know, so they can have. But there are a few criteria you need to observe. Like I mentioned, you know, the visualization needs to be very concrete, you know, to give itself a lot of details, you know, and it need to be somewhat realistic, right? Otherwise, your mind might not believe it. But what is realistic and what is not, of course, it is quite you know, relative as well, right? Because I think it was Milton Erickson. It was working with you know, at that time, you know, a potential Olympic sharpshooter. And you know, and it was like thinking, you know, how many feet can I make it in the shooting, and Erickson make him think that, you know, your mind cannot possibly measure another, you know, half an inch or quarter of an inch more, you know, why not, you know, think of that. And then so you can move the goalposts, right, of what is because the mind set itself limits. Right? If you think I can only shoot 13 feet, then you will, you know, you will forever be that. And that is why, and once you break that barrier, and that is why, you know, if you look at the sports, you know, in terms of sprinting or swimming or anything, once they reach that record, then everyone else also reach it, because now they realize that is possible, right? So in this way, you set yourself that limit, you know, of what is possible, and that is all under hypnosis, right?
Yeah, very interesting, Doctor.
Yes, it was. I think another writer, the guy that wrote, you know, anything the mind can conceive, it can be achieved. And Napoleon Hill, yes, it was him that mentioned that. Very, very powerful. He went around interviewing, you know, hundreds of successful people and find out what, you know, what were they thinking about, and basically come out with, you know, their visualization about their future in very concrete terms, right? So all this is hypnosis, right? And that is why we have a very related field, NLP, which we also have courses in. Neuro-linguistic programming, which use a lot of hypnotic state as well, all right? Like from putting people in various what they call states, you know, resourceful states. Basically, this is what we've been talking about, you know, future states and even past state. You know, we talk about the past and how to change the past, right? So this is one way we do that. We go back to the past, and I ask you as a child, you know, what were the needs that were not met when you were a child, right? And maybe when you cried, you know, you were like lost or something, and your parents were not there, right? Maybe you have that little trauma. So we can go back to that memory, and then what we call rescript it a bit, right? And change it, and maybe get your parents to be there, you know, if it is possible. So we'll ask little Elika, you know, would that be possible? Would your parents be willing to be there, you know? And if you tell me yes, you know, then we will put that image in. So then we will have you have that needs, you know, that you had as a child to be met in your hypnotic mind, you know. So this is one way we specifically use hypnosis to change your past, and therefore change your current states and change your future. All right. In NLP, we call that timeline therapy. You know, just imagine there's a timeline. You know, we plot from your current states to that previous state, and we change, you know, that the source of it, and then that will then change your current state, and then we'll change the way that you die, right? So you don't have to die the way that you are born or you were scripted in. All this can be changed, right?
Yeah, that is correct. I think for like addicts or people who have like this kind of problems, it can be very useful.
Yeah, you're right there, because with addiction, right? It's mostly related to trauma. It's because of some pain. There is a publication called Childhood Adverse Events, you know, publication. Later I'll find it and send to everyone, but you can just Google it up, adverse childhood events. This is the first longitudinal studies, that followed, I think about 7 or 8, a bunch of adverse events, like when you as a child, you witness your parents divorcing, or you witness some abuses, or, so all these different adverse childhood events are linked directly to addiction. For example, the more you have, the more chance you can become an addict, or depression, or other forms of psychological disorders. So it's all in our childhood environments, right? And also the how we perceive that. But all those, can be changed through hypnosis, right? To our experience of all our childhood unmet needs. All this can be changed and rescripted, in our mind's eye. So that is the power of hypnosis.
Yeah, that is a very powerful tool, actually. Interesting. So what about depression? So for hypnotherapy, is it like supposed to find the underlying problem first and then work on that, or directly go for like healing the depression of the patient?
Yeah, there's a few way of entry, right, into it. Like Milton Erickson, he told a story about how the someone was having depression, and he gave the task. You need to know the patient, what the patient like. In this particular case, the patient loved flowers, like African violet flower, something. And he got the patient to to do that, to plant flowers to heal the depression. And when you're doing something enjoyable, right, that you like, that can heal your depression, right? So that's one way to do it. This is akin to like behavioral therapy, and you can like script in hypnosis, a vision for the patient to be doing that, right? So then that would then get them to be motivated to do it. Like this psychiatrist, the guy that pioneered logotherapy, right? Viktor Frankl, right? He he was in the concentration camp, and most people did not make it, but he make it. He survived. He was a skinny little man, but what set him apart was this imagination that he has about the future. He has a sense of purpose. So if we can imagine that, so he imagined every night, being reunited with his wife, talking to her, when he get out. But little did he know the wife died a long time ago when they were both rounded up in the concentration camp. But that doesn't matter, because in his mind, that was his purpose, and also to write his book and every that, and all that. So that would be a very powerful way to to help your client to visualize a future, a meaning, a purpose to hypnosis. And of course, we can also do the timeline to trace back what are the adverse events that might be also underlying, be contributing towards the depression. Maybe there was some loss, in the past, that we can also change and rescript. So there are the different ways of using hypnosis, of entering, the space, with the patient. So you need to know the patient, right? Individually, and enter the space with them at the point that is beneficial, right? So there are more than one way to skin a cat.
Sorry,
Yes,
doctor, I have a question. If you have a patient who is under antidepressant, do you suggest them like how many hours before they see you that they don't take the medication, because it might affect the session? in a different state of mind if they take antidepressant and then like they go into a session? Would that affect the therapy session?
Yeah, I mean, we will want the patient to be able to engage. You know, if they come in like a zombie, then that's might be not the most optimum states. You know, I mean, so antidepressant and all that. You know, that's well prescribed for a reason, right? So we need to get them to seek the medical advice about that, and ensure that if they go off any med, it is done properly. But certainly we do want a patient to be fully as fully engaged as possible, so that they can be open in most of their faculties. Yeah.
Okay.
Good.
And one more question. I think this is my last question for now. Something also physically happens in the brain other than the mentally things that's going on during a hypnotherapy session?
Well, it is the brain wave, the state. It is a very relaxed state. That is not like totally sleeping, right? But yet not the fully but a very relaxed state. That can be measured in terms of an EEG, for example, of this relaxed state. So that is why it is pretty helpful. You can hypnotize yourself, when you're undergoing a tooth extraction, for example, and I do try to do that myself, right? So that I minimize my pain, So it's been used a lot for pain management, for example, right? So you are so relaxed that you don't feel and because pain after all is pretty subjective. So even with the drilling and then everything, I'm so relaxed that I'm able to feel minimal pain. So yes, so it is a link to that brainwave, and I'm sure it's probably linked to your neurotransmitters as well. Like your GABA. Just now John was talking about antidepressant, which is linked to serotonin. And probably under hypnosis you might need less antidepressant, because you might be able to produce more of your own body serotonin. I think we need to have some research to check that out. But I would say, that is very possible, right? Mm-hmm. That they also relax you, because in your brain chemicals that there are chemicals which are relaxing, which we call inhibitory, and those that are excitatory. So you might be able to produce more of those relaxing, happy chemicals in your brain as the result. I mean, the physical and psychological two-way interactions. We are both body and mind. So it is totally, possible for our mind to influence our body, as well as the body to influence our mind. There are some monks that can hypnotize themselves in the snow until their clothings would have smoke coming out of heat. Imagine that this is documented, right? And then all the yogi and all that can do that. So this is the power of the mind, So we have at our hand a very powerful resource,
Yeah, exactly. I've heard that it can be used for like women while giving birth, or like some like like those who have like cancer, and after chemotherapy, how they can deal with this pain. So this is just amazing.
Indeed. And you have, of course, the very famous Tony Robbins, who get people to walk over coals, but it's all under hypnotic stance. He call it NLP, but it's just hypnosis. So yes, a lot of transformation, and he uses the physical transformation as an illustration, as a more dramatic illustration of mental transformation. But yes.
Okay, so for the last call, anybody has any questions? Okay, so if not, then I thank you, Doctor, for this great conversation. I really enjoyed that.
Elika,
yes.
Sorry to disturb you. Just one last question.
Okay, sure. Go for
Muhammad, yes.
How are you? Sorry to have distracted just now because I didn't realize the mic was open. Okay.
It's okay.
And the thing is, how can we treat autism or use this in the process of EIP, early intervention program?
Yeah, you need to assess the child, right? To ensure that they have the capacity to follow some imaginative work, right? So you might need to build it up, because with autistic kids, they might not be very amenable towards using imagination. They are very concrete, but being very concrete is also good, right? Because we need a lot of concrete suggestions. So you need to do it step by step, to provide them with a picture, right? That they can imagine, and you need to work with the imagination muscles. So it's a great facility to do that, but you need to pace it, on a step by step basis, right? So you need to see what they are capable of. First of all, you need to benchmark that. You need to do what we call behavioral analysis, right? But in this case, it is imagination analysis. What they are capable of imagining, and supply that, stretch them a little bit, and work with them on that basis, right? But certainly it can be used, but it need to be adapted. Okay. So we can cover that more on the class. That's for sure.
Oh, sure. That'll be great. Yeah.
Thank you. So back to you, Elika. I think we can wrap up. It's been, I have enjoyed myself too with this wonderful, tour of generative questions, conversation about.
Yeah, the same as me. Yeah, I hope also the audience enjoyed, and I thank you, and also the other people who actually participated with all their questions and attendance. So I hope you guys have a good day, and see you another time.
Bye-bye. Thank you.